Edgar Cayce uncovered that Jesus dedicated 17 years to studying in mystery schools located in Egypt, India, and Persia, where he honed ancient healing techniques that would later characterize his ministry. In a talk to an audience in Virginia Beach in 1932, he shared that the carpenter from Nazareth had received training from the most esteemed spiritual leaders of his era, a finding that transformed our understanding of the origins of Christianity. What's even more astonishing about this documented account is that, according to one of his most insightful readings, Cayce indicated that Jesus did not simply fade from biblical narratives between the ages of 12 and 30. Instead, he was immersed in an incredible spiritual odyssey, journeying to the revered temples of Heliopolis in Egypt, the mountain monasteries in Tibet, and the ancient Persian mystery schools. This was not mere conjecture. Cayce retrieved this information from what he referred to as the Akashic Records, a universal archive that holds the complete history of every soul over time. Be sure to click that subscribe button and enable notifications, as what I'm about to share will profoundly change your perspective on Jesus' consciousness and the essence of spiritual awakening. This knowledge has been preserved in the ARE archives for close to a century, yet the majority of people remain unaware of these insights. Edgar Cayce carried significant influence. Before we explore the concealed journey of Jesus, it's essential to grasp who Edgar Cayce truly was and why his insights into Christ's unexplored years are so significant. Edgar Cayce was far from an ordinary psychic or spiritual guide. Hailing from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, he provided more than 14,000 verified readings while in a trance, and his level of accuracy was astonishing enough to unsettle even his own stenographer. When he discussed Jesus' missing years, he wasn't merely relaying some mystical tale. He was reaching into the same universal consciousness that Jesus himself had accessed during those 17 pivotal years. In one of his more unsettling readings, Cayce revealed insights about the early spiritual education of Jesus. At the age of 13, a caravan of wise men transported Jesus to Egypt, specifically to Heliopolis, an ancient city where he engaged in studies at the Temple of the Sun. This portrayal of Egypt differs significantly from the typical image of pyramids and pharaohs that many hold. Instead, it represented a civilization that continued to uphold the untainted spiritual teachings from Atlantis, which Cayce asserted had safeguarded the highest levels of consciousness work known to humankind. Within these temples, Jesus grasped what Cayce referred to as the laws of one, essential principles that dictate how consciousness shapes reality. He delved into the practices of healing via energy manipulation, explored prophecy through connecting with higher realms, and, most crucially, learned to achieve perfect harmony between the physical body and the eternal soul. This perspective radically alters our understanding of consciousness, suggesting that Jesus didn't perform miracles due to an extraordinary divine privilege. Instead, he accomplished them through refined spiritual practices that any individual could theoretically master, although the Egyptian training was merely the onset of Jesus' remarkable journey. In just 3 minutes, I will present a case that alarmed even Cayce's aides, detailing Jesus' interactions with the Tibetan masters, and the startling reason these teachings remained concealed from mainstream Christianity for the last 2 millennia. According to records from the 1930s, Jesus dedicated several years in India and Tibet, learning from masters who upheld ancient wisdom traditions spanning thousands of years. Cayce disclosed that within the monasteries of the Himalayas, Jesus acquired advanced techniques in meditation, astral projection, and the ability to consciously interact with beings from elevated spiritual realms. One notable reading recounted an instance when Jesus, at the age of 16, showcased his abilities by healing a paralyzed monk using pure mental energy. an event observed by numerous fellow students. The method he employed involved what Cayce termed as tuning the spiritual centers within the human body, aligning what we now identify as the chakra system to establish perfect harmony among the mind, body, and spirit. This becomes particularly captivating for contemporary spiritual seekers, as Cayce noted that Jesus was not engaging in practices alien to human nature. He reflected on the innate abilities inherent to every soul, which have been forgotten over various incarnations in the physical realm. The masters from Tibet instructed him on how to awaken what they referred to as the Christ consciousness, viewed not as a trait exclusive to a singular individual, but as the greatest potential within every human. However, there is an even deeper aspect of this training that directly ties to the prophecies Cayce made regarding our present era. The Persian period of Jesus' education unveils a startling truth about the reasons these teachings were concealed and why they are now resurfacing during our generation, particularly amidst the turmoil of wartime, in revelations that astonished several witnesses. Cayce disclosed that Jesus dedicated his last years of preparation in ancient Persia, now recognized as Iran, where he studied alongside Zoroastrian priests and initiates from mystery schools, who safeguarded the most profound forms of spiritual alchemy known in antiquity. These Persian sages imparted knowledge to Jesus that would subsequently serve as the cornerstone of his entire ministry. He came to realize that consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but rather exists separately from physical substances. Through targeted practices such as breathwork, sacred geometry, and what Cayce referred to as harmonizing with cosmic energies, Jesus learned to function consciously across multiple dimensions at once. This ability explains his feats like appearing and vanishing, walking on water, and transforming matter. He had gained an extraordinary understanding of the connection between consciousness and physical reality, something that appeared unattainable to those functioning within typical awareness. In one notably intricate reading, Cayce recounted how Jesus, at the age of 28, showcased his full mastery by producing food for a multitude during a gathering at a Persian mystery school. This method required tapping into what Cayce referred to as the creative forces of the universe, principles that dictate how thoughts transform into tangible forms. What makes this insight vital for comprehending our ongoing spiritual awakening is that Cayce clarified these teachings were not intended to remain concealed indefinitely. These teachings were safeguarded by secret initiates and mystery schools, intended to be disclosed once more during the Age of Aquarius, a period when humanity would be prepared to reclaim its authentic spiritual legacy. Records from the ARE archives indicate that we are currently in that foretold era, yet there is an even more surprising aspect regarding Jesus' return to Palestine that often goes unnoticed. When Jesus returned at the age of 30 to commence his public ministry, he wasn't initiating his spiritual path. Rather, he was fulfilling it. The events we encounter in the New Testament, such as the healings, teachings, and displays of mastery over consciousness, were the practical results of 17 years dedicated to rigorous spiritual training within the world's leading mystery schools. In various readings, Cayce disclosed that Jesus' well-known phrase, "These things that I do, you shall do also, and greater things than these," was not merely poetic. Instead, it was a concrete promise rooted in the belief that every individual has access to the same conscious potential that he had cultivated through his rigorous training. This indicates that the miracles performed were not extraordinary occurrences, but rather showcases of natural spiritual principles that Jesus had mastered and aimed to impart to those who were willing to learn. This idea links to prophecies concerning our present era that will astonish you. In a 1934 reading, observed by his stenographer and various members of ARE, Cayce foresaw that the insights Jesus acquired in his final years would start resurfacing for humanity during the late 20th and early 21st centuries. He highlighted that methods for spiritual healing, expanding consciousness, and direct interaction with higher realms would once again be accessible to many. Consider today's spiritual environment. Meditation is now prevalent. Energy healing is being utilized in medical facilities. Individuals are encountering near-death experiences and conveying similar multidimensional realities that have been taught by mystery schools for millennia. This is not mere coincidence. It represents the realization of ancient prophecy regarding the emergence of Christ consciousness within human awareness. However, what is even more remarkable about these insights is that Cayce clarified that Jesus' studies in Egypt, India, and Persia were not solely for his personal development ahead of his ministry in Palestine. It was part of his ongoing role as an ascended master, assisting in the spiritual advancement of humanity from higher realms throughout history. Archived records indicate that Jesus continues to engage with souls prepared for rapid spiritual growth, making appearances in dreams, meditation, and mystical experiences to impart the same lessons he acquired in ancient mystery schools. One notable account from the 1940s involved a terminally ill woman who claimed to have received healing guidance directly from Jesus during a vivid dream. She meticulously followed the meditation and energy practices as instructed. Within a few months, her cancer had entirely vanished, a change confirmed by several doctors who were unable to explain her recovery through traditional medical means. This incident was not unique. The ARE archives hold numerous related cases where individuals have claimed to receive direct spiritual instruction and healing advice from Jesus. These instances reflect the consciousness principles that Cayce discussed regarding his experiences in mystery school training. What implications does this have for your spiritual path at present? Based on Cayce's readings, it is believed that everyone living today has the ability to tap into the same Christ consciousness that Jesus fully realized. The key distinction is that many individuals are unaware of these opportunities, or if they are aware, they lack knowledge of the specific methods to cultivate them. The education Jesus underwent in Egypt included daily routines aimed at activating what Cayce referred to as the spiritual centers within the human body. During his time in India and Tibet, he acquired meditation practices designed to access the Akashic records and interact with higher dimensional entities. In Persia, he honed his understanding of the connection between consciousness and matter, discovering how to consciously harness creative energies for healing and manifestation. These skills have not been forgotten. They are presently accessible to anyone who approaches them with the same commitment that Jesus exhibited throughout his 17 years of preparation. However, there's something even deeper regarding the link between the teachings of ancient mystery schools and contemporary spiritual awakening. Cayce disclosed that the souls currently incarnating on Earth are indeed the same ones who lived during Jesus' era, returning now to finalize their spiritual growth through the advanced consciousness practices preserved in mystery schools, which are being unveiled once more. This suggests that if you feel an attraction towards these teachings, if something within you resonates with the narratives of Jesus' concealed years and his mystery school training, you might be recalling your own spiritual legacy from that crucial period in history. In one of his most well-documented cases, Cayce informed a woman from Virginia Beach that she had been a disciple in the Temple of Heliopolis during the time of Jesus' training there, and that her present fascination with spiritual healing was, in fact, the revival of abilities she had cultivated 2,000 years ago. The woman, who was initially doubtful, started to apply the meditation methods that Cayce outlined from the ancient Egyptian practices. In just 2 years, she cultivated such remarkable healing powers that doctors began sending patients to her for ailments that traditional medicine could not treat. This illustrates important insights about consciousness and your personal spiritual potential. As per Cayce's insights, consciousness does not perish with the physical form. Every talent, every spiritual gift, and every degree of awareness that you attain in a single lifetime becomes an enduring component of your soul's growth. This implies that spiritual practices extend beyond this lifetime. They are contributions to your eternal spiritual growth. Jesus fully grasped this concept. His 17 years of training in the mystery schools were not merely a prerequisite for his ministry in Palestine. Instead, they equipped him for his lasting role as a teacher of consciousness throughout human history. And here comes the most astonishing revelation of all. Cayce clarified that Jesus' declaration regarding performing greater works wasn't pointing to a far-off future event. Instead, he was illustrating the spiritual capabilities of souls that would come into being during the shift into the age of Aquarius, armed with the ancient insights he had safeguarded, as well as the enhanced comprehension that would emerge over 2 millennia of human spiritual growth. That moment is upon us. We are that generation. Based on recorded readings from the ARE archives, we are currently experiencing the most spiritually pivotal period in human history since the time of Jesus' initial ministry. The principles of consciousness that he learned in Egyptian temples, Himalayan monasteries, and Persian mystery schools are now more accessible than ever, enhanced by technologies and teaching approaches that ancient sages could not have envisioned. This explains how meditation apps can facilitate deep spiritual experiences. It also clarifies why energy healing methods shared in short workshops can yield astonishing outcomes. Furthermore, it sheds light on how near-death experiences are revealing similar multidimensional realities that initiates from mystery schools devoted years to exploring. The divides between typical consciousness and Christ consciousness are breaking down, just as ancient prophecies foretold they would during this transitional phase. However, it's essential to grasp how to utilize these insights for your spiritual growth. The training that Jesus underwent in the mystery school adhered to a defined sequence that Cayce delineated with impressive clarity. Initially, there were purification techniques in Egypt aimed at removing the mental and emotional blocks that hinder higher consciousness. This was followed by expansion techniques in India and Tibet, where the focus was on functioning from various levels of awareness concurrently. Lastly, there were manifestation techniques in Persia, emphasizing the mastery of the connection between consciousness and the physical world. The same path is accessible to contemporary spiritual seekers, yet many attempt to bypass the purification stage and leap straight into manifestation techniques. This tendency is a key reason why numerous spiritual practices yield limited outcomes. Based on Cayce's documented advice, the Egyptian stage requires daily meditation, dream exploration, and what he referred to as ideal assessment, where one consistently aligns thoughts, words, and actions with their highest spiritual goal. Although this work may not seem glamorous, it is crucial for building the spiritual foundation necessary for more advanced practices. The Indian and Tibetan stages are centered around learning to connect with higher guidance through prayer, meditation, and serving others. It's noted that the masters who instructed Jesus highlighted that spiritual gifts emerge naturally when one's consciousness is directed towards aiding others, rather than seeking personal gain. The Persian phase focuses on the practical implementation of principles related to consciousness for purposes like healing, guidance, and creative manifestation. However, Cayce pointed out that this phase is most effective only after a solid foundation has been laid through purification and spiritual growth. This progression is particularly significant for today's spiritual seekers. We are in an era where all three phases of mystery school training can be accomplished in one lifetime, a feat that once necessitated several incarnations. The rapid evolution of consciousness that Cayce anticipated is unfolding precisely as he indicated it would, particularly during our shift into the age of Aquarius. Are these insights even more remarkable in light of Cayce's prophecies regarding certain individuals who would embody Christ consciousness in our present time? In testimonies from the late 1930s provided by various members of ARE, Cayce forecasted that souls linked to Jesus during his training in the mystery schools would re-emerge in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. They would possess both ancient knowledge and contemporary insight, necessary to assist humanity in its ongoing spiritual evolution. He pointed out that these individuals would gravitate toward Edgar Cayce's work, not merely by chance, but due to a recognition of the shared consciousness principles they had explored together in the ancient mystery traditions. If you find yourself watching this video and these insights regarding Jesus's obscure years resonate strongly within you, it's possible that you are one of these returning souls, awakening to your spiritual legacy and mission during this crucial phase in human history. This is not some New Age fantasy. Rather, it's well-documented information from one of the most precise psychics in history. A man whose medical assessments, prophecies, and spiritual revelations have been corroborated thousands of times across nearly a century of scrutiny. The issue at hand isn't about the authenticity of the revelations concerning Jesus's training in mystery schools. Rather, it revolves around your willingness to incorporate these insights into your personal spiritual growth and embrace the Christ consciousness potential inherent in every human being. Based on Cayce's final insights on this topic, the resurgence of Christ consciousness in human awareness is not a far-off event. It is occurring in the present moment, one individual at a time, as people begin to realize the same spiritual truths that Jesus perfected during his 17 years of preparation. The mystery schools have reopened, teachers are accessible, and ancient knowledge is being unveiled. The only lingering inquiry is whether you are prepared to embark on the same path that Jesus undertook 2,000 years ago. Now armed with both his enduring teachings and the rapid evolution of consciousness that allows for mastery in a single lifetime. The carpenter from Nazareth dedicated 17 years to his preparation for a transformative 3-year ministry that forever altered the course of human history. What might you achieve with similar spiritual training, applied through contemporary insights and bolstered by the consciousness acceleration that is accessible in today's world? This is not merely a rhetorical inquiry. Based on Edgar Cayce's recorded insights, it stands as the most crucial question any soul can pose during this period of significant transition. The years of Jesus that seem to be missing were actually safeguarded in a cosmic consciousness, patiently waiting for the moment when humanity would be ready to embrace its authentic spiritual legacy. That moment is here. This is your chance. If these insights resonate deeply with your spirit, ensure you subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell, as we are only starting to delve into the significant spiritual teachings that Edgar Cayce has preserved for our time. If this video has opened up new pathways for your spiritual journey, please give it a like and share it with anyone eager to uncover the remarkable truths about the potential of human consciousness. The same masters who educated Jesus in ancient mystery schools are still here today to guide seekers. The principles of consciousness that he established remain available to anyone who is prepared to engage with them earnestly and with a spiritual intent. The Christ consciousness that he exemplified is an inherent right of every human being. The key distinction between the era of Jesus and our present time is that, due to the efforts of individuals like Edgar Cayce, who safeguarded these teachings during the dark periods of spiritual repression, the pathway is now clearly defined, and support is readily accessible for anyone willing to embark on this journey. Your education in the mystery school commences as soon as you resolve to treat it with seriousness. The expansion of your consciousness quickens the moment you start to implement these principles with true dedication. Your spiritual growth begins the instant you prioritize serving others instead of focusing on your own progress. This is the journey that Jesus undertook. This is the goal he achieved. This is the very potential that resides within your soul at this moment, poised to be activated through the timeless knowledge that was never truly gone, merely obscured until humankind was prepared to embrace it once more. That time of readiness is now. The moment has arrived. The chance is yours to seize.